Hi everyone, it's Sandy, and today I'm going to be recommending some underrated books. All of the books that I'm mentioning in this video are books that I really enjoyed and I think deserves much more hype. We're just going to go ahead and get started. The first book slash series that I'm going to recommend is the Covenant series by Jennifer L. Armentrout. I'm sure everyone knows who Jennifer L. Armentrout is. She is the author of the Lux series, which is a pretty popular series, but this series I think is just as good as the Lux series. This is the first book and it's called Half-Blood, and it has to do with Greek mythology. It follows a 17-year-old girl named Alex. She is a half-blood and her options in life are either to become a sentinel and kill demons in order to survive, or become a servant. She chooses the former and she wants to become a sentinel, and I just think that this series is so much fun. It definitely has that similar entertaining and fun vibe as the Lux series. Our main character Alex is sassy and fierce and determined. Alex's character and the first book specifically is very similar to the Vampire Academy by Rochelle Mead, so if you like the Vampire Academy I think you would really enjoy the Covenant series. There are a lot of similarities with the world and you can definitely see that in the first book, but as the series goes on, the books just become its own and it's definitely very different from Vampire Academy. And Alex was honestly such a fun character. I loved her interaction with our main love interest. I really love them together and I love seeing how their relationship developed throughout the rest of the books. Just like the Lux series, there are 5 books in the series. This is also a really fantastic series to binge read, so if you're in the mood for something that you can read through really fast, I definitely recommend this series. And I want to mention this series because it doesn't get enough hype as the Lux series, and although the Lux series isn't the best series in the world, it's still one of my favorites because I really enjoyed reading it. I just think this series needs more love. The next underrated book is The Immortal Rules by Julie Kagawa. This is the first book in the Blood of Eden trilogy. This book does have to do with vampires, and I know that most people now aren't that interested in vampire books, but I think the author does a great job at making this whole vampire aspect really unique and different. In this book, vampires are the rulers and they are the bad guys. Humans are terrified of them and they just want to survive. A lot of people are living in poverty, and our main character Allison is one of those people. She hates vampires, but one day she ends up becoming one. So she is now the creature that she hates most, but she doesn't want to die. She wants to survive, so she joins this group and tries to pass herself off as human, and together they're all trying to survive. But Allison is struggling with her transformation because now she has to depend on blood. I also really like that in this book there is this disease that is threatening humans and vampires, and if you get this disease you either die or become this creature that just kills people. So basically there's a lot of things that Allison has to deal with over the course of the books. It's just a fantastic trilogy. It's very fast paced if you're interested in that. I really love the characters and the premise of this book was just so interesting to read. Everything was really well explained. So for example, the whole process of turning into a vampire, that was explained so well. So if you're interested in reading a vampire book, I highly recommend this one. The next underrated book is Let's Get Lost by Alsaid, and this book is a road trip book and it follows our main character who's road tripping to see the northern lights. But the cool thing about this book is that it's not told from her perspective. It's told from 4 other people's perspective of them meeting her and how this girl has changed their lives. I just think that was a brilliant way of storytelling. This book is basically 5 short stories in one book, and I just really love seeing how this one girl impacted the lives of 4 other people, and the ending of this book just ties everything together. And I think this is a really great book if you want to get lost in for a couple hours. I think it was a really great story and I definitely recommend it if you're in the mood for a contemporary book that has to do with a road trip. The next underrated book that I'm going to recommend is The Impostor Queen by Sarah Fine. This book follows our main character Ellie, who has been trained her entire life to become the queen after the current queen dies. And so when the queen dies, the queen's power is supposed to be transferred to Ellie, but when the queen does die, the transfer of magic does not happen, so Ellie is forced to run away. This book has so many different elements that I love finding in books. So for example, there's magic, romance, wonderful characters, and a really intriguing plot. Ellie is a very likable character and I really love her sense of dedication to protecting others and her kingdom. Her entire life basically changes when the transfer of magic doesn't happen, and I think she handles everything so well. I also think it's really cool that she's not the chosen one, but she does have an important role to play. Something that I do want to mention is that the author does include subtle hints about our main character being not heterosexual, and I wish that was explored further in the book, but I think it's really refreshing to read a book where the main character isn't just straight, especially a fantasy book. I'm not sure how many books are going to be in the series, but I know the second book came out earlier this year. I haven't read it yet, but I believe that it's a companion book, so I'm kind of sad that it's not going to follow Ellie, but I'm definitely hoping that she does have a role in that book. I think this book has a really good balance of action and build-up, and I really enjoyed the pacing of it, so I definitely recommend this book. The next underrated series that I'm going to recommend is The Naturals by Jennifer Lynn Barnes. I know, I had to do it. I just want more people to read this series and experience the amazingness of Jennifer Lynn Barnes' writing. In case you don't know what this book is about, it's very similar to Criminal Minds, except it follows teenagers that have this natural ability to do certain things. So for example, our main character Cassie is a natural profiler. This series is just so good. It's really great with the mystery and thriller aspects, and I really like how there's this like overarching storyline over the course of the 4 books in the series. Everything just ties together so well, and the author does a fantastic job at throwing in plot twists. So for example, the author will have you thinking one way and then she'll throw something at you and that just changes everything. This is a really fantastic series and I highly recommend it. If you like the book You by Caroline Kepnes, I think you would enjoy this series because there are chapters in this book that is told in the serial killer's perspective, and it's told in second person, so the serial killer is like, you did this, you did that, and it's so interesting to be able to see snippets of that throughout the course of the whole series. By the way, each book does follow a new case, but there is this overarching storyline that is seen through all of the books. The next book I'm going to recommend is Queens of Geek by Jen Wilde, and this is a book that takes place at a convention. How cool is that? And it follows 2 main characters, Taylor and Charlie. Charlie, who is a Chinese-Australian YouTuber who just started a movie, so she is becoming quite popular, and our main character Taylor is Charlie's best friend, has anxiety and is on the autism spectrum, and they go to this convention together. And I really love the portrayal of anxiety in this book. There are so many sentences in this book that was written in Taylor's point of view that basically describes my feelings of anxiety sometimes. This book was just incredibly cute, fun, and relatable. Obviously the setting is fantastic and I really love the characters. Charlie is also bisexual, and this is an own voices book because the author also identifies as bisexual and the author is also on the autism spectrum. There was a lot of great messages in this book, and this book was just so fun and amazing, and it's a really great contemporary book. Another underrated book that I'm going to recommend is Of Fire and Stars by Audrey Coulthurst. This book follows 2 characters, Denna and Mare. Both of them are princesses. Denna is being betrothed to a prince in another kingdom, and at this kingdom she meets Mare, who is the sister of the prince. They form a friendship and slowly they start to have feelings for each other. I think it's a really great fantasy book that features LGBT plus main characters. I thought the relationship between Denna and Mare was wonderful. I really loved reading about it. Seeing their relationship develop was the #1 reason why I wanted to keep reading. Like most fantasy books, this book also has to do with magic, so if that is something that appeals to you, you should definitely pick this book up. And the last underrated book that I'm going to be recommending is The Female of the Species by Mindy McGinnis. I'm recommending this book because it's important and it's relevant to our society. This book has to do with rape culture, and I think Mindy McGinnis does a fantastic job at bringing that to surface. This book follows 3 different point of views. We have Alex, Jack, and PK. I'm not going to go into their backgrounds, but these 3 characters are definitely different. They are definitely vital at representing certain themes and messages, but I was able to learn from these characters, from their mistakes, behaviors, and interactions, and this was just such a powerful read, and it needs to be talked about, and I think it deserves so much more hype. Those are all the underrated books that I'm recommending in today's video. If you've read any of these books, let me know what you thought of them, and if you have any other underrated book recommendations, definitely leave those in the comments. Thank you so much for watching this video. I hope you enjoyed it, and I will see you next time. Bye!